Fala aí pessoal do YouTube, voltando aqui com mais um vídeo de Vampyr. E estamos aqui numa situação um tanto complicada, porque de acordo com o último vídeo, eu fiz um progresso legal, eu conheci alguns personagens e parti para tentar fazer uma missão que se chama Turno da Noite. Fabrique o tratamento para fadiga. Eu até enfrentei um chefão, né? Um vilão assim, um inimigo considerável com uma vida lá grandona. Consegui vencer e tal. E quando eu cheguei na mesa para fazer o tratamento, para fabricar o remédio, eu acabei fabricando errado. E eu não acabei fazendo tratamento para fadiga. Então nesse vídeo eu não sei. Deixa eu checar aqui a mesa primeiro, para ver se eu tenho material. Eu não sei. Porque eu tenho que fazer isso aqui, ó. Tratamento de fadiga. Eu preciso de uma solução de hipoclorito de sódio. Eu não sei onde eu consigo isso. Eu não sei. Eu não tenho nenhum item pra que eu possa fazer isso. Eu não sei. Eu sem querer fiz isso aqui, sem pensar, essas duas coisas ou algo assim. Então eu preciso de hipoclorito de sódio. Pra eu conseguir esse item, isso aí acabou me prejudicando porque afetou também. De alguma forma, afetou essa área aqui, eu acho. Bom, eu ainda tô tentando me entender com isso, mas o que interessa aqui agora eu acho que é importante a gente tentar conseguir resolver isso. Mas ao mesmo tempo, eu vou tentar conhecer os outros personagens, tá vendo? Tem muitos personagens aqui pra conhecer. Então vamos primeiramente sair daqui e falar com todo mundo. Porque assim pelo menos a gente consegue entender os nomes. Ó, ali tem o Milton, que eu sei que é o motorista, tem essa mulher também. Então vamos com calma. Vamos falar primeiramente com essa mulher aqui embaixo. Quem é você? Uma coisa de cada vez. Esse lugar aqui é muito grande. Eu não parei pra prestar atenção.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me,
Thelma.
mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Não é não. Não é. Se você fosse uma vampira, você estaria morta, mas eu senti o seu batimento. Você é uma louca.
And why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Caramba, filosofou, hein?
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of pustulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
Olha.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
Esse jogo é muito bom. É muito bom.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Meu Deus, velho.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me. For I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal. But do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Cada personagem Cada personagem tem uma personalidade, tem algo a dizer, algo novo. que reflete precisamente seus pensamentos. É muito bom, cara. Ainda tem coisas que eu não sei, porque eu preciso de pistas aqui, mas enfim.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
No, it was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
Vou precisar de mais pista pra isso, mas... Muito obrigado pela conversa.
You, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Cara, extremamente interessante. Extremamente interessante. Ela não é uma vampira. E ela é bem fraquinha, no sentido de que eu posso hipnotizar e matar, mas eu não vou fazer, eu não vou fazer isso. Eu já fiz isso com o Clay, eu não queria. Olá, Pipa. Vamos falar com o... Opa, quem é aquele cara ali? Ele tá do lado de fora. Ah, aqui.
Thelma Howcroft said she was being watched by vampire hunters. Where are they hiding? I should investigate.
Não, vamos falar com esse cara aqui primeiro.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed.
Always a pleasure to meet a colleague, sir. Especially when he was supposedly dead.
A colleague? Are you a doctor too?
Not anymore, sir. I used to be Dr. Rakesh Chadana. Now, I'm just Mr. Chadana, pawnbroker and humble guardian of this morgue.
What do you mean, you used to be a doctor? Was your license revoked?
No, sir. It is just that I like to be precise. I run a little pawn shop while taking care of the dead. But I used to be a real doctor.
Oh! Então ele vende coisa. Será que ele vende o que eu preciso? Vamos primeiramente... Vamos conhecer ele primeiro, depois a gente vê se ele vende o que eu preciso.
Are you afraid or uneasy being surrounded by so many corpses?
Why should I? These bodies are empty vessels. Flesh left to decay. Poof. No soul anymore. All gone.
An interesting point of view. And quite an exotic one, too. Most people fear, or at least have a respect, for dead flesh.
Sir, as a medic during the war, I learned to face my death and the death of others. It's the pain we have to tame, not death itself.
Filosofia pura, incrível.
How did you get this job?
After I left the army, I worked as an undertaker down by the docks. A dangerous place with many an unpleasant business there. Milton Hooks helped me get a job here.
Opa, Milton. Milton é um motorista, não é?
Have we met before?
I don't think so, sir. Why?
When we first talked, you said you were glad to meet me since I was reported dead.
A funny story, sir. Your sister came here a few nights ago.
Oh.
You were missing, and she was looking for your body. She must be very relieved now.
Bom, ela tá morta, né? Mas eu não vou falar nada.
Do you work here alone?
Yes, very easy work, sir. All I have to do is watch a few bodies. The situation was very different when the main morgue was still open.
Why do you have to watch these bodies?
Because these poor fellows have no names. We keep them in case someone comes looking for the missing. Sadly, very rarely happens.
Why close the hospital's main morgue?
It was for sanitary reasons after the beginning of the epidemic. Cadavers had to be moved to the nearest mass grave.
Ok, eu não tenho mais o que dizer. Talvez... vamos ver.
A pawnbroker? I expect you get all types of people here.
Yes, sir. All kind of people. For I sell all kind of goods.
Who comes here to trade with you? It's very unhygienic, even unsafe. Diseases can spread. For the customers, for the hospital.
I'm very cautious, sir. I've been a doctor, remember? And all my clients are good people. In fact, I think I only know good people.
What kind of goods?
With the quarantine, it's not always easy to buy things. So I trade, I exchange. Some people sell, some others buy. I like to help.
Entendi, então eu posso craftar coisas, não é? Eu posso destruir para conseguir recursos para fazer outras coisas, como também posso vender as coisas para conseguir dinheiro ou algo assim, fazer a troca com... ok. Algumas opções.
Since you're not afraid of dying, do you believe in life after death, Rakesh?
No. I believe we must do all the good we can while alive. For our time is short, and the obstacles are endless.
Do you think you would enjoy immortality as a concept?
I don't think so. Don't mistake me. I love life, and I'd like to live a long life. But everything has to decay, sir. Even goodwill.
Meu Deus, esse cara é tão mórbido, mas tão filosófico.
Do you really believe goodwill cannot last?
As I said, sir, everything decays. If I was to never die, goodness, I would be bored or worse. And I like to be helpful, sir.
Quite depressing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but the good news is we'll all die before losing our humanity, sir.
Impressionante.
So you're ready to die?
No, I am not. I don't fear death, for I won't see it. What troubles me is the pain my death will inflict to those I know.
You're a wise man, Mr. Chidana.
No, Dr.
Genial.
Reed, I am a foolish man. But I like to think otherwise.
Esse personagem é um dos melhores. Mas tudo bem, vamos agora ver...
Please show me what you have to sell.
Of course. It's just trinkets and curios, really. But I'm sure they can be useful.
Eu acho que eu preciso de duas coisas de sódio, não é? Aqui é comprar e aqui é vender. Ópio, codeína, solução... É isso aqui que eu preciso. Ok, comprei dois. Acho que eu já posso fazer.
Tomorrow, more bodies will arrive and then sadly depart. I'm managing a train terminal, not a morgue.
Vamos ver o que tem nesse baúzinho.
It's locked, all right.
Trancado. Ah, que droga. Tudo bem, eu termino aqui o bagulhete ou o quê? Vamos conhecer mais algumas pessoas ou eu sou pra resolver o problema? Quem é você, meu amigo? Tá cuidando de uma pessoa ferida. Mas essa pessoa ferida... Ela tá sem batimento. É um vampiro? Ela tá se mexendo. É um vampiro.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed, yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swans's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
Como é que é, meu amigo? Tu sabe que eu sou um médico, né? Eu já fui... Caraca, velho. Bela empatia. Esse cara já quer confusão, caramba. Eu sou um vampiro e você vai morrer.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
Que isso, cara?
Aren't you too old for such jealousy? It really won't do you any good, you know.
Don't be ridiculous, Dr. Reed. A simple glance is enough for me to know you have nothing for me to envy.
Mano, esse cara... Tipo, ele tá certo até certo ponto, mas ele não precisa dessa arrogância toda também.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor. Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
Tudo bem. Acho que eu não tenho mais o que perguntar. Aqui eu tenho 2.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly
A
is
zerar
that
o jogo,
supposed to
porra.
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
Você fez isso, protagonista, hã? Hein, Jonathan? Isso indica que o protagonista não é um santinho, não é 100% uma pessoa boa. Isso é muito interessante. Abriu uma vertente, abriu uma possibilidade de que não estamos jogando com um herói. Estamos jogando com uma pessoa que comete erros e que tem tentações.
Knowledge has always been and will remain our main weapon. And it has always come at a price. And personal initiative.
It is not a question of initiative, it is a question of integrity. These men and women have put their faith in us, Dr. Reed.
Então, de fato, aconteceu isso?
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd.
Então, de fato, aconteceu ou não dele fazer... Meu Deus!
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
Ok, mas e essa pessoa aqui do lado, velho? Isso aqui é um vampiro. Você tá cuidando de um vampiro, não é possível. Esse cara tá sem batimento. E tá se mexendo. Mas tudo bem. Tudo bem. Vamos lá pra cima resolver logo isso aqui. Porque eu não quero também deixar o vídeo muito longo. Vamos acabar e fazer o tratamento para a fadiga. E aí a gente vai conhecer outros personagens. Velho, cada personagem extremamente interessante nesse jogo. Eu nunca joguei um jogo assim, de verdade. Tá, vamos tratar logo isso aqui. Eu sei que eu posso fazer já, eu acho. Eu posso? Posso. Isso. E agora? Leve o medicamento para Dorothy Crane. Vamos lá. Pera aí, mas a Dorothy Crane, ela que vai utilizar isso pra ela ou tem alguém ferido ou algo assim? Porque eu acho que eu esqueci de prestar atenção no que a gente vai realmente fazer com esse recurso. Ela tá por aqui. Gente, é muito personagem. Eu não tenho tempo pra conhecer todo mundo agora não. Pera, onde é que... não é por aqui. Mas, gente, onde é que é esse local que eu tenho que ir? Ela tá pra lá, não é? Ela tá aqui do lado. Aqui embaixo, não é? Ó. É você.
Finally, you've returned, Doctor. Did you find anything of value?
Yes, nurse.
You've worked your first miracle, Doctor. Now, this patient here needs immediate treatment.
Duty calls. When the storm has passed, I'll show you how to mix the remedy yourself with the same basic ingredients.
Many thanks, Doctor. When you've finished, you ought to report to Dr. Swansea in his office. He's been looking for you. Seemed pressing.
Tá bom. Doenças. Doenças reduzem a qualidade de sangue de um cidadão. Trate-os com remédio adequado. Fale com o paciente no quarto atrás de Dorothy e verifique o quadro clínico dele. Então você que eu tenho que tratar, não é? Quem é você?
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And
Tem uma mulher
Could
ali.
you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
Morte, meu Deus. Doenças. Aperte R1 para verificar o quadro clínico. Curar um cidadão, aumentar a qualidade do sangue e fornecer a recompensa de perda. Tá. R1.
Do you need any help?
I'm afraid I may, sir. I don't mean to be a burden.
Não dar o remédio. Dá o remédio. Ué, tem que dar o remédio, né, filhão? Pô.
You are not a burden, sir. Healing you is my responsibility.
And you have my gratitude for that.
Mas eu devia ter conhecer ele primeiro antes de dar o remédio? Ele é uma pessoa que tá sofrendo. Eu sou um médico, eu tenho que cuidar dele.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
Eu não sei. É que ele precisa descansar.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
I'm alright.
É melhor assim.
Don't waste your time with me.
Não é perder tempo, é apenas... Quem é você?
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
Oh,
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick.
minha mãe.
Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
Tá, vamos primeiro... Calma, pera aí, vamos lá. Sua vida em Londres. Conte-me sobre você.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Alunas. Então você não... Tá, não tem garotos que querem aprender com você, né? Tem que ser só garota. Eu não sei como funcionava as escolas na Inglaterra ou em Londres, nas proximidades de Londres naquela época. Isso é algo a se pesquisar a respeito.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
Eu não sei. A gente tem que analisar melhor essa situação. Temos que falar com ela.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
Tudo bem. Eu não tenho mais o que dizer. Eu não tenho nenhuma pista. Eu acho que eu vou ter que falar com o filho de novo.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
Vamos falar com você mais uma vez. Eu sei que eu falei que eu ia
Good evening,
pedir
Mr.
pra...
Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Tá um pouco melhor, isso é bom.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Tá, talvez ele precise descansar mais.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Eu senti... realmente, sua voz... Eu sei que você tá com problema de garganta, mas não sei, cara. Senti um leve incômodo. Então...
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Tá, mas o que aconteceu com seu pescoço?
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reed. It's my mother.
Tá.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk.
Tá, já acabou a conversa. Vamos deixar ele descansar.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir.
Olha, o que ela disse, a Beatriz Goswick, ela tem uma relação. A Beatriz... Cadê a Beatriz? Tá aqui. Ela tem uma relação com alguém. Ela tem uma relação... A qualidade... O círculo social com o filho. No entanto, ela teve uma relação com a enfermeira, não foi? A enfermeira em questão era a... Cadê? Cadê a enfermeira? Você? Não. Ué, ela não tá aqui? Bom, enfim. Dr. One... Tem um desconhecido ali também. Você? Eu não conheço você.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Olha, temos um puxa-saco aqui.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
Puxa-saco.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
Você tá sendo muito
I
otimista,
based
não?
my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me, but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
O pessoal fala bonito nesse jogo.
What do you think of Dr. Ackroyd's aversion to modern medical methods?
It's a shame he's so narrow-minded. Dr. Swansea taught me that science is about exploring uncharted territory. I'm convinced that's true.
With the influenza and all that's going on, you should put your differences aside, don't you think? Why is it so difficult to work together?
I believe that if Dr. Ackroyd had been the one to discover the transfusion process, he would be the first to recommend its use.
So you believe it's just a question of jealousy and pride?
Dr. Ackroyd is as proud as he is blinded by his obsolete concept of medical science.
É importante lembrar exatamente isso. O Strickland e o São Paulo, eles focam bastante em métodos mais modernos, enquanto o outro, eu esqueci o nome dele, é mais conservador, não é? Então, é o Ackroyd. Ele foca em questões mais do passado, que são mais seguras, mas o mundo muda, sacou? Então é importante entender como é que vai fazer esse salto, essas mudanças.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research. Yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time.
Tudo bem. Nova... Tá aí, nova coisa. Eu não tenho mais o que dizer, não é? Ah.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him, or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior, a man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
Ok, então tem realmente relacionamentos aqui. É, não tem mais pista. Acabou.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Caramba. É isso aí, pessoal. Conhecemos algumas pessoas. Eu ainda tenho várias pessoas pra conhecer ainda, né? Aqui, tipo, essa pessoa... Dorothy Crane tá aqui. Thelma... Mas tem outros. Tem bastante ainda pra conhecer. Mas eu vou parar o vídeo por aqui. Tentação de sangue. Lembre-se, o sangue dos cidadãos consegue um grande bônus de experiência. Procure por cidadãos do mesmo nível. Eu não vou fazer isso. Não, já não basta ter feito isso com o Clay. Eu não vou fazer isso. Mas é isso aí, galera. Vou finalizar o vídeo por aqui. Foi muito legal conhecer os personagens. Conseguimos finalizar a missão. E temos que agora falar com o Dr. Edgar Swansea. Mas ainda conhecer os outros personagens. Então, finalizando por aqui. Até o próximo vídeo. Valeu.